It's time to rock and roll!
Hey, how you doing, listeners? This is Gina Versa. We're here with another episode of the Waffle Press movie podcast. I'm joined by my co-host Diego Crespo.
Hi, thanks for doing the intro today, man.
Oh yeah, did it well, yeah.
Yeah,
But
you're killing it.
today, oh thank you. Yeah, today's like a special episode. It's kind of like a PSA of sorts. We wanted to put this together to talk about the Writers Guild strike. There's a lot of information, things going on. So we thought we would have a guest from the WGA to talk about it. I had my good friend Jordan Mitchell. You've been on the podcast a few times before, so it's good to have you back.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back. I think I've only been, if I'm not mistaken, just once. I think for that Black Panther episode. I could be wrong though. I could be wrong, but
You were okay.
yeah, but it's great to be here. You guys, I didn't, yeah, and be a representation for the WGA. I know I try to, do my best here.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's great. I love to be a part of it.
definitely. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like what shows you worked on, just kind of you as a writer?
Yeah, so it's a little bit about myself. I joined my pathway to WGA was a little different. So in 2019, I applied for the Nickelodeon Writing Program, which is a fellowship for new emerging diverse voices. And Paramount slash Nickelodeon has this program. It's kind of like an internship, but essentially you're brought in along with maybe a couple other writers to sort of hone your skills, learn more skills. We do improv classes. It's kind of like a boot camp. And I applied for that in 2019, got into it at 2000, like in Thanksgiving 2019, along with another writer. In 2020, I was in that program where you get paid. Essentially, you go to the headquarters. Now in 2020, the COVID happened, so a lot of that was remote as well. So I did that, and that extended for almost about a year. And then as a result of that program, I was able to using some connections there. My one of my sample scripts have gotten around to a few people in the TV departments at Paramount, and I was able to get on staff on iCarly, not the original iCarly, but the reboot that's on Paramount Plus right now. So I was able to get on that as a staff, and the staff is kind of like the lowest level of paid writers. And that was really fun. That was also a Zoom room. And I was the showrunner for that was Ali Shelton. So shout out to her for hiring me. And so yeah, I was on that for about 6 months on that show, and it did really well on Paramount Plus, one of their better shows. I mean, their better performing shows, I should say. And after that, it got kind of rough for me, or at the very least, like it just things kind of dried up a little bit when it came to hiring. So I was off of that show, and then it took about 8 months or so until I was able to get on Raven's Home. You can see my Raven's Home hat. So I was on Raven's Home. I got on that in October of 2022. So yeah, so sometimes being in this business as a writer, especially as a young writer, you can get on a show and things can start to kind of happen for you, and then there could be a pretty long instance of you maybe not getting landing meetings or being able to get read. So it's very there's a lot of ups and downs to being a writer, even in being a WJ, similar to being an actor or anything that's sort of gig related. And then so that's essentially how my career sort of started, and we had just not just wrapped up, but in May, once the writer's strike happened, we had 2 episodes left of shooting for Raven's Home that we weren't able to shoot. Unfortunately, we did finish the season finale because we knew that the strike was probably going to happen, so we filmed that ahead of time. So yeah, we had 2 episodes left to write. I mean, not to write, but to film. We never end up doing it. So yeah, that's the rough of how I've kind of gotten to where I'm at least writing wise.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like the process of what it was like joining? So it's like, get kind of, you pay dues, initiation, things like that.
Yeah, so the initiation, and mind you, I don't even really remember like like joining, but I just remember like a lot of that process is kind of done by my reps. I was rep by CAA and I had a manager at the time. But essentially, I mean, you do pay once you, let's say if you get staffed on a show, right? You do pay a $2,500 initiation fee, which, you know, I mean, that is what it is. And then your dues are essentially, so let's say every time you get a paycheck or every, like, your revenue for X amount of months on a show, you basically have to pay 1.5% of your writer income per quarter. So there's 3 quarters, I believe, per year. So you have to pay that 1.5, and you have to calculate. And the sucky thing is you have to calculate all that yourself. Often the WJ doesn't do it, so you kind of have to. There's a lot of work you kind of have to do on your end to make sure that you're paying your dues and that you're paying the right amount of dues. And then what I just found out is in order to become a member, you have to have 24 credits or 24 units, I believe. Units. So 24 units is, so basically, like, for example, if you sell a script, that's 24 units. So if you sell a script, you're going to be automatically being a WGA. If you get hired to write a script, which I was hired to write a script for iCarly, so that was how I got into the WGA. If you do something that we like to call a polish, that's 6 units. Right. Yeah, units. 6 units. So if you're hired, so let's say if you're just starting off and you get hired to polish a script, you wouldn't technically be in a WGA just yet. You would need to do that. What's 24 divided by 6? 4 times? Yeah. And then if you rewrite a script, and then that's 12 units. So and those are like really the main 4 ways. It's like, let's say if you do 2 rewrites, that's 24. If you do a number of polishes, but if you sell a script, or if you get hired to write a script, then you're automatically in the WGA. And, you know, they'll send you, like, they send you packages and stuff like that, and things to fill out. So it's relatively streamlined. I honestly don't remember joining, but I remember getting this stuff in the mail about it, and obviously having to, like, pay the fee and all that. And you know, and just that stuff will just kind of come out of your first paycheck. You know, you take your first paycheck, and you know, and being a staff writer pays relatively well. So it's not gonna, they make sure that these fees are not gonna, you know, make a dent in your income.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of going off of that, what's been like the biggest benefit, just kind of for being in the union of the WGA, for, like, you know, you're on iCarly, you're on Raven's Home, just kind of being the, like, writer on those shows help you out?
Yeah, I would say some of the biggest benefits are, I mean, one would be the biggest thing would be the health insurance. You know, and being able to have really good health insurance and dental and things of this nature. And it's all like more or less kind of streamlined for you, for them. I mean, there's like things you have to apply for, that you have to put in work to make sure that you're all insured and that you're good to go. But yeah, that was especially lately, been a big benefit for me. But also, I mean, in terms of making sure that, you know, like the unions and the Writers Guild, they definitely have your back, and to make sure that you're being paid on time, that you're being properly credited for your work, and things of that nature. So it's really like you have like this, I don't want to say like a gang, but you have like this team of people, you know, that behind you that have been where you have been, you know, because the vast majority of the people on a WGA, especially these higher ups, they've also been in the staff writer or the lower positions. They've been there, so they want to make sure that you are if you, as a new member, are making that you're getting paid, and that things are going, that you're being credited properly, and that things are working out for you. So that I think like so insurance, and I would say the support.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it's like, you know, a lot of these people, you know, a lot of the, like, studios or what have you, they definitely, you know, don't have your back sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're gonna get into it, but, you know, hearing some of these CEOs and executives talk, it's like they sound like Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development. Like, it's health insurance, what could it cost? $500 or something like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, the thing about it is just like, and even with like SAG, it's and people, and I just want to also people, whoever's listening, because there's a little bit of a there's a little bit of this cynicism when it comes to writers, a little bit, especially now. You know, I mean, there's a political element to it, there's a social element to it, but even when it comes to SAG and actors, but just know, people listening, that maybe out, like for SAG, for example, only about 2% or 3% of actors in SAG are the big stars, are the ones that are, you know, are the elite, the ones that are making a lot of money, you know, the Denzel Washingtons, the Chris Pratts, the Chris Hemsworth, and all that such, right? And then the 90, you know, the 98% of these actors are working actors. These are people, you know, who drive regular cars and have regular, sometimes apartments, sometimes they work on a job, and sometimes you might see them waiting tables and things of this nature. And there's some, and it's similar, very similar to writers. So these writers who are out there striking and protesting, these are not people who are most of these people are not striking and protesting and going back to their Teslas and at their home in Calabasas. You know, this is, again, not saying that's, you know, some of them are, definitely there's some are, but but the vast majority of these people are working class people. And the CEOs that you're referring to, you know, they I think a lot of them have this warped sense of reality because of how, you know, how they live and how they make their money and how they kind of view the world. And so yeah, so what you're saying about the whole, that comparison didn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, definitely. Very well said. Because it's like, yeah, that's a really good point to make. Because it's like, yeah, you know, a lot of people, you know, that work on shows, they're just like us, you know, regular people, like, you know, like working, you know, working class dudes. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's, yeah, people just have a job. You know, it's like we love this. It's like there is a sense of romanticism I think we have to have about it to devote our lives to this. But you know, a job's a job. Like sometimes it could be a little tiring, and you know, lately it seems like to be very tiring towards people in the industry, in the guild, and it's unfortunate. And I just want to also say that I've seen some criticism like, oh, this is the writing we're defending. You know, someone will like put a screen cap of dialogue, be like, this is like what, I don't know. I've seen some shit where people
Yeah,
are
no,
they're
that's
ragging on
exactly.
stuff that they don't like in a time like this. And it's like it doesn't matter. A
mhm,
human being made that, and they need to be taken care of because
yeah,
they have the resources to be taken care of.
But most of, but I'll tell you something. And this is somebody who's just been in it, who's actually seeing from the process of being in the writer's room to the note session to the rewrite to all of it from top. I've seen it for the most part, and not all of it. You know, like there's still a lot that I got to learn, but I've seen quite a bit. And what people got to understand about right when they're complaining about writing and all that, it's like The Flash, for example. Let's just use that movie.
yeah,
Christina Hodson wrote the movie. You know, I'm not a big fan of the movie, and a lot of people probably weren't or were, whatever. Right? It's not a review on the movie, but just know that the vast majority of the time when you're seeing a person write, it's not, a lot of those decisions in the movie was not up to them. They are being hired to write a thing, right? So a lot of times when you're seeing something, maybe a piece of dialogue. I mean, I'm not absolving the writers of when you see bad writing. You know, I'm not gonna do
mhm,
that. However, in a lot of cases, you have studios, you have, you know, you have showrunners and stuff, it's and such. So sometimes you, like, you know, a writer can get credited for an episode, but 90% of the things that you see that are being written and said, the dialogue and such, the decisions were not that credited writers' choices, you know.
yeah,
So it just to be mindful. I think people to be mindful of, yeah, like, you know, you might have criticism of some of the writing that you might see in TV shows and such. But just know that it's a little bit kind of deeper than that. It's not like all these they're just bad, like they suck anyway. Let's whatever. It's
mhm,
there's just a bit more to it, and I just want people to just not be completely ignorant about some of this stuff. And I know that they still will be, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. But I did want to address that because it's something I'm like, when people say, yeah, this person wrote this. It's like, yeah, there's a showrunner,
mhm,
there's the executive producer who gave that certain note, there's star who wasn't gonna say this certain line. Like there's a whole lot of things besides just the writer whose name you're reading on the screen for 5 seconds when it appears. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, definitely other things to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, you know, but
yeah, no, definitely. One more thing, I guess, before we go in kind of the, you know, next part of the discussion. What was the? Can you talk a little bit about kind of? So I believe it's been. It was the end of May the strike started. So I think it's like something like 40, 50 like working days since
Mhm.
then. But and you said you kind of you guys filmed the finale. What was like kind of the vibe like right before like the strike happened? Like because there was some you know back and forth between the studio and the Writers Guild and everything. So is it gonna seen it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we were still working. We were still working that day. But on that day, we all kind of came in. We kind of sort of knew that it was probably the last day. So we went into offices. We packed up. It was like a goodbye, but we
Mm.
could be back on Monday. It was that sort of sort of deal. Very, very strange. I mean, we went out to dinner as a at least most of us did as a writer's room that night, and just kind of still awaiting our fate.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was just a weird sort of, I mean, obviously no one wanted to strike. I think most of us, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but most of us voted in favor of the strike. And it sucked because it's like, we knew that we sort of had to. So it's like, even though, like, sure, a lot of people who, and it sucks, even myself included, but a lot of people who were still working, you don't want to strike because you might have stuff in development, and you got people who have worked very hard and have gotten right to the cusp of maybe having something being sold, or something being in production, or something being shot, and it's like you get right to it, and then the strike, it's like dang, but you have to do it. It's
Yeah.
like, reminds me, not to bring up another superhero film, but
Hmm.
the guy, the Blue Beetle, I forget the guy's name. Zolo. I don't want to mispronounce his name.
Oh, the actor.
I think it is Zolo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zolo, the guy. I don't know his last name, but he was the star of Cobra Kai. And I looked up his IMDb page, and this was his first starring movie. He's only been in like maybe 2 or 3 movies, and this movie is like, wow, it's like all this is all leading to him starring in a DC superhero film. And
Hmm.
because of the SAG strike, he's not able to do promotion on this movie, and he probably, depending on how long that the SAG strike lasts, he might not even be able to go to his own film premiere.
Yeah.
So like the timing of a strike is never going to be good timing, because it might be okay timing for some, because there you got some writers who've been working for on 2 or 3 shows in a row, and so they could use a little bit of a break. But for a lot of writers, it's they can't afford to go. I mean, we're on like day 70 something. I lost count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most
Just a
writers,
quick clarification. The strike did start May 2nd, Gene.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
May. So, but the vast majority of writers, I mean, thank God I don't have kids. I got this dog that I'm watching that's too
Hmm.
close. It's like, but you have people who have families, people who have homes and mortgages, and student loan payments, or tuition payments for their kids, or like, so it's never a convenient time, but we had to, just to ensure the rights for not just in the short term, but also in the long term, and for decades and decades to come. So
Yeah. No, definitely, because it's like, man, yeah, I did watch that video of the actor from Blue Beetle, and that was a bummer because it's just, he wanted to like, promote this movie that he worked hard on, but yeah, the right thing to do is yeah, stand together with, his guild and fellow actors and
yeah.
everything. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's always good to do the right thing, yeah, at the end of the day. So
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on that is that, but the reason why you have to do it is because that the people before you, right, whether you're an actor or a writer, the people in these unions before you have fought and made sacrifices for you currently to be in the position where you're at now. So I'm able to have healthcare. I'm able to have, to have certain protections when it comes to credits and things of this nature, and the pay that I have and all that. I'm at least from the shows. Not now. I'm not on any show now. I'm unemployed.
mhm.
But I was able to have those things because of the people who made the sacrifices back in the 60s, back in the 70s and 80s, and even the writer strike that happened in 07. So it's like this is basically you doing your part. Just like how the people before you did their part.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's, very well said. I guess like kind of going off of that, the previous writer strike, it was 2007 to 2008.
Yep.
I believe it started October and then ended like February or so. And yeah, just kind of touching on that because it's like I think we were big TV fans at the time. You know, why writers are like so important because it's like you saw the drop off in quality for like some of those shows. Like I'm not sure if any of you guys watched Heroes at
Yeah,
any
here
point. I feel like
Heroes.
Heroes.
That's kind of the. I mean,
Mhm.
not to hijack your point, Gene, but you're so right. That's the one everyone goes to because that was like a breakout sensation. It was ahead of the curve on the superhero boom. You know, it's like you just have the X-Men, Spider-Man. Nolan just started his Batman, but it's not what it was now. And that was like a medium defining show for the first season. You know, like you could argue whether or not it holds up. That first season was a phenomenon,
Right.
and then season two happens, and you know, it's just rolls off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I'm mistaken, so I won't name the show, but I remember one
Sure.
show kept airing and they hired writers for individual episodes, but they didn't staff them, so I think they were scabbing.
Mm.
I don't remember the show for certain, but I just remember that even made the news waves, and I would be shocked if something like that happens this time, only because I mean maybe it's different from different points of view, but I've seen so much support for the both strikes happening now,
Hmm.
prior than what I saw in 2007, 2008, and we were much younger. You know, maybe we
Yep.
missed it back then because we just didn't have access to the stuff we have access to now. But I remember people being like, "Yeah, those writers should just get back to work." Like I remember there not being like that much public support outside of the industry versus now. I'm having conversations with my godparents, you know, and they're like, "Hey, so what's happening with that? Like, why aren't they paying the writers?" You know, like that's the beginning of the
Yeah.
conversation now.
And I also want to really say, because I didn't, at least with the 2007 writer strike, because I didn't really, I watched a little bit of Heroes, but I never
Mhm.
kept watching it. But I
Okay.
did remember the drop off in movies. And
Yeah.
2009 was probably one of the worst summers for movies.
Yeah.
You know, I think Quantum of Solace suffered. You know,
Mhm.
Daniel Craig,
Revenge of the Fallen. I
Revenge
remember.
of the Fallen,
Yeah.
Terminator Genesis, and what was another movie? X-Men Origins Wolverine,
Oh god.
Oh
which
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I find to be interesting
Oh.
that in both instances where we have a Wolverine in a Deadpool movie,
Oh.
that will probably prevent, because even in the Deadpool 3, where Wolverine
Uh-huh.
finally came back after I don't know however many years, because he was in X-Men Origins
Yep.
Wolverine.
Yep.
Now, Hugh Jackman is back. All right, a strike. Damn, we can't do it. We should have did it
Mhm.
earlier.
Yeah.
Which is
Probably, yeah.
funny. But yeah, you were mentioning the Diego, you were mentioning your godparents and the support. I think the reason why there is a lot more support now, probably, I mean, I'm not, again, I was young too. I didn't even know there was really a writer strike. I was just like, why are these movies in 2009 so bad?
Yeah.
I had no idea. But I think it's just because there's a lot more transparency.
Hmm.
There's a lot more transparency in regards to, I think, because you know we're TikToks and social media, and so we know how much these CEOs are making. We know how much roughly these movies are generating. We like, it's like we know, like a show like Wednesday, we know it was super successful. We know that Squid Game and Stranger Things, whatever the show, you know, they're making, people are watching them. House of the Dragon, we know, you know, we get it. We see the enormous budgets on these movies, and I think that even with the whole AI, which I know we're going to get into, I
Mhm.
think it's just, we know that the money is there. We know that
Yeah.
the money is there, and the WGA is not, they're not asking for a significant chunk of it, really. And then when we look at how much the CEOs are making, it's like it just, there's kind of things just kind of aren't adding up. So I think that people are being a little bit more kind of sympathetic or empathetic, whichever word is right,
Yeah.
towards that. But I will say though, I was on a picket line. I know we're going to talk about the picket line stuff later,
Mhm.
but I was on a picket line and I was picketing, and a guy kind of was passing by. Mind you, it was around like 10:30, and a guy was just passing by, the picket line and kind of shouting at the writers, and maybe he was drunk, I don't know, but
Yeah.
telling the writers, you guys should get back to work, you lazy, cursing and all this other stuff. And then I said something. I'm like, wait a minute, sir. It's 10:30 on a Tuesday, and you're not at work. So you telling us to get back, you're not at work. Why are you not at work, sir? Everybody, if you were employed, usually you work at 10:30 on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Usually. You know what I'm saying? I could see if it was like noon or like 3. It was 10:30, and he was just walking around in his,
Yeah. I don't
But
think he had an
anyways.
answer for that.
Yeah. But anyways,
Yeah.
so you still have that criticism. I know, just look at any comment section, but at the same time, I do think that you have people who are like, yeah, this is kind of messed up. They're taking advantage of these people.
Yeah, I feel that too. It's just the general sort of like, to be like, well, yeah, like more like empathetic right now. Seeing just like random people, just like respond to this, or you have like stuff where I guess that goes to the next point. I know I was watching like a TikTok this morning. I think like someone sent it to me, but it's like they said it like really illustrated like the writer's strike, but it was like Snoop Dogg. He was talking about it, and he was like saying like, I'm not sure. Has anyone seen that? Or he's just like, where,
Yeah, I've seen it. Basically, he said if you have 100 million streams, shouldn't you be able to? I forgot how we laid it out, but essentially,
yeah,
if you have 1 billion streams, like how come the money is not sort of translating?
yeah,
Something like that. I don't want to misquote him.
yeah, and you have like stuff where it's like, the video of like, I know it's for a different strike, but like Sean Gunn, he's talking about like, he was on Charmed.
He was on Gilmore
Or
Girls.
Gilmore
He was on
Girls.
Gilmore Girls
Gilmore
for I think
Girls.
every season.
Yeah, and he's saying like he doesn't make like any residuals from like the show that like Netflix has like made so much money from. So it's like, I'm glad like, information, I guess through like social media or things like that, it's getting out to like, regular people, and just kind of like, they're connecting with it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanna also further clarify Sean Gunn comments too. So Gilmore Girls aired on what became the CW. I don't remember if it started in the CW, but that's what it became.
Yeah.
So you get residuals from those reruns, which I think a lot of people know about now. It does not nearly as they're not compensated by them now as they were before, and they're definitely not compensated by them on streaming services, which Gilmore Girls blew up there, which is why they did the new season, which I haven't seen any of Gilmore Girls, but I know it's a big hit. Everyone knows it's a big hit, especially Sean Gunn, who was able to have a nice start to his career. He's spoken about other acting struggles he had afterwards, but it did give him his start in a way that he didn't need James Gunn to survive as an actor. He could have his own career without that, and he that's what he's clarifying, that with the Netflix stuff, there's nothing else. There's no bonuses. There's no anything from all the success they've had as a company with it, and it's not their show. Like they didn't do anything. They just have the streaming rights sometimes.
Yeah. I guess like kind of going off of that, Jordan, can you talk a little bit about the WGA, what their kind of like stances or demands are from like studio streaming service on just the writers being properly like compensated through like specifically streaming? That's like kind of one of the things.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, I think I really boiled it down to about 3 or 4 main points. So the first point would be just increase pay. So there was a time where there's minimums for how much a writer can get paid. So let's just say your staff, and the minimum is, it's not this, but let's say the minimum is like around like, I don't know, like 90 to 100. That's the minimum. Okay, that's the minimum and I'm not sure that don't use those numbers, but I'm just as truth. But let's just say that's the minimum. It's like, sometimes you can negotiate for a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Like just depending upon your pedigree, depending upon your previous experience. What your agent or manager is able, or your agent is able to basically to negotiate for you. But we've gotten to a point where in the past, about roughly 33% of people, of writers were paid at the minimum rate, and now it's closer to 50%. And the pay overall for writers has decreased over time in the past few years to 14%. I'm just again, these are some numbers that I've jotted down.
Mhm.
So overall, we're just looking for just slightly increased pay for writers. Another thing would be in terms of streaming would be not necessarily better residuals, but they understand that the residual system for streaming is flawed. Unfortunately, these streamers do not share numbers of viewership. So if I have a show on Netflix, I don't know if it's, you know, how many. I think there's ways to measure. I'm not quite sure what they are. I know, I think that they are, because I've watched some content creators who are able to get the numbers of viewers. So I know that there's a way to sort of do it, but at the same time, though, these streamers, they're not telling writers or creators how, like, that their show has, you know, has at this many viewers or this many viewers. So that's sort of tricky, but essentially, because we know that that system is flawed, and, you know, they're not doing ads anymore. It's like, you know, there's no such, we don't have the system kind of like back in the heyday of TV, where, you know, your show gets syndicated and you're able to make money in China and in Africa and all these places that are streaming Seinfeld. You know, that's one reason why, you know, Seinfeld was close to a damn billionaire. You know, it's because of the syndication and all, and, you know, these people playing, these countries playing your show over and over again. So to combat that, at least again, when I looked into, we're looking for more upfront fees to compensate for the lack of residuals in streaming. That so so that's why we want the pay to increase, because it's like, hey, we're not getting residuals, so we need to be able to circumvent that by paying me upfront when it comes to selling a show, being staffed on this show. Now, where it gets a little bit interesting is we're also looking for not, I'm not sure if it's the whole the abolishment of mini rooms, but we want to get rid of the concept of mini rooms. So if you, those of you don't know, a mini room is essentially, let's say if you have a show, like I'm just going to use this show as an example. I don't know shade to the show. For example, of a Swarm on Amazon Prime. From my recollection, when I look at I'm not sure if it was a mini room, but you might have a show like that that has the head writer, you know, like the Donald Glover. You have a head writer, you have maybe another head writer or another EP or what have you, and maybe 2 or 3 other writers or so on a show like that. So it'll be a small room, and they're doing, you know, maybe 5 episodes or 8 episodes. And also the orders of a lot of these shows are small. So back in the day, you would have a show that would be, and I think Fran Drescher talked about this. Your average show would have, you know, 20 episodes or, you know, 25 episodes. You have a large season orders. I mean, for Raven's Home, we had about 20 episodes. So this show is very much like a more of an old guard TV show. But, you know, some of these shows, like again, a Swarm might have like five episodes, 8 episodes. You know, they're smaller, right? So we're looking for these companies to not hire and to put regulations on mini rooms, so that you are able to have larger writers rooms, or, you know, or more of an average size writers rooms, to give more opportunities and more employment opportunities to other writers. So even so, you know, that's very important, because again, you can have a couple of shows on Amazon or a streaming service, but they're hiring these mini rooms, so it's like only 5 or 6 or so. Again, I don't have the exact number, but you just have a lower number of writers on a show than the usual. Maybe, you know, you can have like 15 or, you know, or however many writers, a larger number of writers on a show. So we're looking to combat that. And then really one of the bigger things I know we're probably going to get into, and SAG are fighting this as well, and I think is a huge threat, existential threat, if you will, is AI and the assurance of it and putting regulations on it.
Yeah. It's definitely, we'll definitely touch on that. But yeah, I did not know about the mini room, because that's you know, very informative. Yeah, Diego, I'm not sure if you heard of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
no.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, yeah, I think people also got tricked with the smaller syndication orders for, or not even syndication orders, but just like the smaller prestige dramas. Like HBO has 10 to 13 episode season. That's been their thing, but those are more expensive, right? Like it's a special case with that. But now I think a lot of shows or a lot of streaming services try to keep those numbers down episode wise, because maybe there's like an air of prestige to that, which, you know, undercuts the actual creators working on the shows, because there's not much time, there's not much money spent even developing it. It's just they see that and they think they can sell that better than starting a new, like the next Office, you know, or something like that, the next Parks and Rec, the next Community, sitcom wise. Like those shows had like 20 episode seasons, 20 plus episode seasons constantly. Towards the end, not so much. That's the evolution of television that I was just talking about. But like, I don't know, you also just can't build an audience very often, you know, because that's more of a mini series thing. If you're doing 7 episodes, 10 episodes, you can, but I do think, like, even just speaking just the creative side of it, it's a little harder to stay engaged or to flesh out your world and characters more. Like, I don't know, speaking just for myself, I like when sometimes there's like a bottle episode once in a while. Not every show needs one, but you get what I mean, right? Like there are tropes in TV that are kind of fun, you know, just a one-off episode. They're doing like a gimmick over here. Community has the incredible paintball episodes that everyone loves, you know.
Yeah,
you can't really do those with like 6 to 10 episode seasons, because everything has to be about the plot constantly. It has to keep moving, and it's nice when things settle down.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, even like building an audience, I think that's a show thing, and seemingly with these streaming services, it's like they want to keep kind of pumping out content to kind of keep you signed up, to keep you engaged to keep you on a streaming service. And also with the mini room and the shorter episode orders, I think that one reason could also very well be, you know, the increase of binge watching. So it's like, hey, you know, we have a series that is 8 episodes, and you binge it over a weekend, as opposed to we're going to order 20 episodes of a thing, and then we're going to prolong it, because, you know, you have to shoot, you have to, you know, edit and all that. So it's like we can prolong this for, you know, however many months. You know, again, like Raven's Home is like they put out about 2 or 3 episodes a week or so, and then they're being premiered on Disney Channel. So it just really depends on the format of or the setup of what that show is. So yeah, no, it is very much different in TV, and yeah, it's like, so you do have shows like an Abbott Elementary that I think is kind of gaining an audience in at least, you know, like a comedic show, but it's there's a lot of options out there. And also too, you know, another important thing that we have to remember is that because of streaming, current news shows are not just competing with the new shows that are being made, but they're also competing with damn near every show of the past.
Yeah.
So I bet you, like The Office on Peacock, or remember back when The Office was on Netflix?
Yep. Yeah.
When The Office was on Netflix, it was beating out damn near every other show or most of the other shows that were new. So it's like, so it's there. You can always go back to the old stuff, and you can go back to things that are really old, you know. So so that's another big thing to kind of keep in mind with and that's another reason why, you know, IP is so that they always like to go back to that, to whatever the IP is, because it's a guaranteed audience, as opposed to making something new, which seems a little bit more of a gamble, you know.
Yeah, no, that's really well put, because yeah, I mean, like, yeah, everyone was like just rewatching The Office during like 2020, or like, you know. Yeah, and it's like, it's hard to compete with something.
Because you watch it again, you know that it's funny. It's that humor that you're into, especially, you know, during the time of like I think the reason why you would probably, you know, back then it was probably still just as popular, if not probably more popular, was because in 2020 you had the pandemic, so you had a lot of uncertainty. So when you got when there's a lot of uncertainty happening, you know, like there's a reaction. So when there's a lot of uncertainty happening in the outer world, when you're at home, you want something that is a guarantee. You know, so you're probably gonna be less likely to start something new, because I don't know if it's gonna be good, but I know that it's gonna be good. I guess I'm gonna watch The Office.
Comfort show, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess just kind of moving along here. A little, I guess the opposite of comfort is kind of what you're talking about, the AI in like regards to just the writing of like scripts, things like that, which is like terrifying. I guess that report that came out too about was it the AI like they're gonna scan, for for the SAG thing where they were gonna like scan people in the background and just like reuse their like likeness like forever. That's some
Yeah,
like
they need
Black
to.
Mirror stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they need to. Yeah, I think that so the that was something that with the AI that I don't think me personally that
Mhm.
I think that the WGA wasn't harsh enough on
Mm.
because the WGA was simply asking for, and it, to me, the language of it was a little vague. At least,
Okay.
and there could be more to it that I'm not able to see because I'm just WGA member number, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But there's probably more to it. But at least from what I was able to find out for myself, it was just they were just looking for assurances and making sure that there's some kind of regulations there. Oh no, I do know that the WGA is looking so that AI is not being used to create or rewrite material,
Mm.
but more so used as a tool. And the AMTPT, I can never get the acronym right, but the
Mhm.
studios, let's just say the studios,
Yeah,
they
students. Yeah.
they and the people who were striking that we were trying to negotiate with, the AP American Motion Picture AMPTP. I can again,
I think
people.
that was the one. I think that was the one.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, I
okay,
think you're
good.
right.
Because I'm like, ah, man, I was like, dang, I hope I don't mess it up. But they basically were saying that the counter was we were gonna have yearly meetings about AI. So
Mm.
basically saying, F you, we're not gonna, so and I think that even when it comes to the SAG, which again is something similar because they're trying to scan and have the people in the background and not pay them, it's these people are looking to maximize as much of their profits as possible,
Yeah.
um to the point where these background let's just take SAG, let's put WGA to the side and just look at SAG to the point where we want these people who, it's like a background actor. It's like when you go back and you watch a movie from like the 80s or something, it's like, oh wow, it's Chadwick Boseman. Oh wow, I didn't know what's his name, so and so was in that episode of Fresh Prince. Whatever you're watching, it's like, these
Mhm.
actors, some of the time, not all the time, but some of the time these people are able to progress, and it's like being a background actor allows them to make a living until they get that, that higher up gig, and they kind of move up and up and up. So to eliminate these people's income, that would be a huge blow to a significant demographic of actors. And background work is important.
Mhm.
Background work is, they especially seeing it on Raven's Home. It's like, sometimes we'll be watching the takes on Raven's Home, and you notice background actors. Like there's an art to being when you're there and you're drinking water and you're talking and you're, eating the food.
Mhm.
It's like there's an art to it. I mean, these are not positions that you can just you can use. It's going to be noticed that it's not. I mean, I think it's not bordering, it is unethical,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know in this.
It is.
And I know that, even with, especially, look, it's kind of like this, at least with CGI. It's like, sure, like you've seen a Star Wars movie, we've seen the aliens or the droids in the background, and yes, they use CGI for those, for that background. It's like, when you watch like those George Lucas special editions and you see like
Mhm.
it's like, that wasn't necessary, George. You didn't have to put that in there, but he did.
Yeah.
Did anyway, whatever. But
Yeah.
the difference was that, at least with this, it's like now they're trying to literally scan and take away your identity, because you, as an actor, that's why you have face shots. Like, it's like, that's your moneymaker. It's like,
Mhm.
actors are not being, they're not being conceited or whatever, when it's like, this is my moneymaker. It's like that is like very important. So, but yeah, so and I hope that the SAG is able to fight that and get that completely condemned. 'Cause I think that is absolutely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even more so than even the stuff that we're fighting for in the WGA. I think that
Yeah.
is completely messed up.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's so terrifying, unethical, because it's like been doing it for like 100 years. Background people, background acting, like things like that. I did some background acting just to like get by when I was like starting out, in the industry. Like it's like kind of, it's like a weird backbone, I guess, of like, making it in Hollywood. It helps people just get by. Yeah, backing
Yeah,
up what you said.
Absolutely.
yeah. There,
But
there's a big not like push, but I think there's a lot less movies that have utilized background extras because of the cost of hiring so many background extras. But I think you can tell. I think it's
also
a real
COVID.
loss. It's like
Hmm.
you like it when movies are populated with people because you go to the movies for characters and powerful stories, right? And like
Hmm.
not even gonna name any names because you're probably gonna think of someone I say that, like say the scene or something like that. But when you watch like a big spectacle movie and it's just a couple people in rooms talking and not like out and inhabiting like a world that they're trying to either like protect or destroy or whatever, right? Like you don't feel anything when there's no people in a big action scene, right? If it's just
Yep.
like spectacle
Oh,
for the sake of spectacle, it's not very engaging. You know what I
yeah, and
mean?
I apologize, Alex. I wasn't aware. Like, if I'm not, if I shouldn't bring up any movie examples, I
Oh
that
no,
that
no, no. I'm just
No,
I
no,
just
you're fine.
this is a personal thing because Gene knows I keep going back to the well of criticizing certain movies. This is
Uh-huh.
for me.
Oh, okay,
I am
okay, I
trying
got
to
that. I
stop
didn't know what
myself.
the yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I was gonna say I didn't see that in the thing.
no.
Yeah,
You're good. You're doing great. You're doing
Yeah.
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100% agree. And look, I will say, look, even I'll use this. I'm always going back to superhero movies. It's like
Mhm.
Spider-Man movies, which I like, most of them.
Yeah.
But the ones as of and I understand you have COVID and all that, but even
Yeah.
before kind of COVID, it's like sometimes when you watch big movies now, like you just said, it's absolutely right. It's like there's a difference in, it's like when you watch the Raimi Spider-Man movies and you see the people in the background, you see the people of New York, you see the person eating a hot dog in the background or walking the
Yeah.
dog, or it's like you see, and it feels like a set, and it feels like that it's lived in. And then now and again, I understand we have COVID. I understand that people are trying to make the best out of this situation that we were in, and sort of still are in.
Mhm.
Uh, but when there's no background and when it's green screen, you do feel it. There is a difference. There's a significant difference, and it's very noticeable on a visceral kind of subconscious level. Um, so I can only imagine what that will sort of be when it comes to if they were to try to implement this whole AI background thing. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so AI is something, as far as the WGA was concerned, is something that we were definitely trying to look for um caps on, because we
Hmm.
know how these studios are, we know how these execs are, we know how, and I don't want to just, but they are, and I didn't really, I they, it is greed. I mean, that is what
Yeah.
ultimately this is.
Yeah.
And and it's greed that's trying to cut out a significant portion of both SAG in their income and the WGA in their income. And these are the people who collectively, because film, TV, this is a collective,
Hmm.
very, very collective effort. When you watch it, look, you can watch a scene in your favorite movie, and the person in the background, if it they just like the star, the people in the background, they have, I'm not gonna say it's just as vital, but they do have a vital part. The gaffers, the people who are building the sets, and it's like this is, when you look at the credits, there's a reason why you have people who sit. There's a reason why you probably should sit through at least some of the credits, because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people. Look at Spider-Verse, and how many animators, and in the stuff that the controversy with some of the animators who left and all that. I think it was like
Hmm.
hundreds. So
Yep.
these are people who work very hard to get in this business that we all love and can enjoy, and turn on the TV, and from a long day at work, oh man, what's on? It's like, these are people who are trying to, who are contributing. And we got to make sure that these people are well compensated, so that they're able to make a living as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because, yeah, no, like what you touched on, yeah, the greed, you know, from like a lot of executives, it's just like taking away like the soul of the industry, like what makes it, like human or like important, just can't have like an AI like write your scripts. You can't have like just a CGI person in your background.
And I
I mean, the
mean
thing about it is they can try. I mean, they can try to do it. It's and I think, I mean, like I said, I think where AI is going to go, I think it's interesting, it's terrifying. I played with ChatGPT a little bit.
Mhm.
uh it can't, I mean, with humor, it's very wonky when it comes to humor. It can lay out, it can write you a script in regard, or a scene that you ask it to do in a
Mhm.
somewhat competent way. But anybody who reads scripts, it's like when you read something that's done by Chat GPT versus it does feel like it's from a machine, or from like a, it's just mimicking. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the not just mimicking. I think we should also mention that it is just plagiarism. It's a plagiarism machine basically because it's just taking information that other people have done and it
Mhm.
scours its network to find like
right, yeah.
comparable data. Be like, okay, this is what I have access to. This is I can replicate that as a machine and pump it back out. And it's like, oh, okay, like
True. Yeah.
it's technically functional. I think it's also unethical. Um,
Yeah.
and it's very silly that people think it could ever replace human beings
Yeah.
as artists. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm sure the intention is absolutely there to replace people as workers with that, and not just in this industry, not in just in this field. Like that,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
I think this is why, especially the SAG strike got so much attention, like immediately too. Is not just that stars are not going to be walking red carpets; it's that AI is going to be try to be implemented in like every field available in every
Mhm.
workforce across the globe, right? And I'm not like fear mongering like, oh, Skynet, whatever. I'm just like, I think
Right.
this is a real thing we're all coming to understand now. Everyone is going to try to, like, instead of hiring 12 teachers, maybe you have 6 teachers, and then uh computer teaches or regurgitates math, right? Just go to a class for like quizzes that kids can take. Like that's the fear I have, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's
But
out
never,
of the realm
yeah.
of possibility.
That
Yeah.
just for so many reasons. Just if you're talking about not to jump, because I do substitute teaching and stuff, on the
Mhm.
side or whatever. There's no that that's just that just could not work.
Mhm.
There's some fields. I mean, like, look, when it comes to, I don't know, coding or something, I don't know. And again, even with that, I'm not going to pretend like I know, but I know that there's, from what I read or looked into, they're looking to replace coders and a lot of other copywriters and things of this nature using Chat GPT or AI. But when it comes to like certain fields, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Even with like acting and stuff, it's like when you watch these weird, and they're getting better. But it's like when you're watching these weird commercials that are done by ChatGPT. It's like, or not ChatGPT,
Oh, the
by AI.
yeah, like the
Looking at,
Secret Invasion credits.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest with you, I have not watched Secret Invasion because of those credits. I like when one
Yeah.
thing, they should have just either, and I know they probably did it for the press, but they should
Mhm.
have said that they were using AI to do those credits, or else I probably would have watched them, watched the show, because I was interested in the show. But because of that, it's like, damn, you guys are doing that already. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm
Oh,
kind
and
of,
it
yeah.
looks bad. Like those are some of the worst credits because it's like they give like Nick Fury 2 eye patches or something, and
Yeah, I'm
then
just like,
yeah,
and I heard the show is not all that. It's just kind of
yeah,
like,
it's not good.
why? Because we know, yeah, it's not, it's then it's gonna be the first Marvel thing that's written by AI. Like, we know what we know it, and so
Yeah.
it's like Marvel has the money, and I know that they use artists ultimately to, like, within the credits. So I know that it wasn't all AI, but even still, it's just your Marvel. You can afford to, you can just hire
Hmm.
the artist to just make the thing.
Yeah, and they yeah
We
they
know we know you can do it.
yeah, yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, a lot of these people, a lot of the like execs are like Marvel could pay for it. Like they're like extremely most profitable like what have you franchise.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
even like just taking it like as an animation, a work of animated art, right? It's like, let's say Spider-Verse doesn't exist yet, okay? Any of the Spider-Verse movies. If you are a Sony executive and you plug in some stuff into an AI data, I don't even know how like you get the AI stuff, right? But
Hmm.
some guys like, I want to make an animated Spider-Man movie so we can keep pumping Spider-Man money out, right? It's not going to look like those movies do. Those movies don't
Yeah.
exist without the hundreds and hundreds of talented artists, and like we mentioned already, there's obviously lots of talk about with the
Yeah.
the workforce in those movies, unfortunately. But those movies don't exist without everyone contributing to them, human beings. For movies like live action movies and TV shows, those don't exist without the hundreds and hundreds of people working together. Even the mistakes, even the messy days, even the stressful days, like it is just part of the human experience, just getting together and talking about shit and making shit. It's why we exist. Like there's no greater, like, higher calling than just getting together with a bunch of people and trying to make something to be proud of. Or maybe you have a bad day and it's like, man, we shared that bad day together. Like that is a bonding experience.
Yeah.
And you don't get that with these machines.
Yeah.
And I think that, because let's be honest, there is a corporate nature to a lot of how a lot of these big budget movies are done.
Mhm.
Seen it. It's like even when you watch, it's like another superhero movie. It's like okay, they filmed 3 different endings for it.
Yeah.
It's like we know that there's a lot of corporate. It's not so we get it with Star Wars, with this whatever. There's a corporate nature already, and a lot of people have been criticizing the movie business or the movies, these big movies, because the corporatism, I don't know if that's a word, the corporatism that these movies are kind of made under have kind of stripped the soul out of a lot of these movies. So you on one end you have a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, at least the first one, or most of them, but the first one especially, that you can feel that there's a soul there, that this was a movie made out of love, and the practical effects and the all that, like it's like, wow, it's like this felt like this was a classic sort of film that was made, and then you have other movies that, I'm not going to name to bash any, but it's like you see these other movies that you can tell are made under this corporate mandate. So even when you're making something that doesn't have an AI influence, you can tell if it's coming from a place from the heart, or a place of like, okay, this is where the story should be told, versus doing it to check boxes on a pie chart or like an Excel spreadsheet. So I can only imagine what these movies will look like if they have a significant AI influence. You know what I mean? Because we can feel the soulless nature of a thing even when it's made by people. So and it's not, and these movies, even something as big as Avatar 2, it's like Avatar 2, even though it was a big James Cameron spectacle, I think was made from a heart. I think it was made from a genuine place, even though there's a lot of CGI with that movie and all that. But you can tell there was a soul there. So so I think it's just important that we understand. And the cynics, there are people who are saying, yeah, they could replace they could make ChatGPT write these scripts and blah 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 blah, because you do have people who are more on that side of things, and it's like, no, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it, and it's going to convey in the people who are the numbers. I think, but I don't know, could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Like, I would say 99% of people who have watched movies have one movie that makes them cry, at least, if not more, right? I cry at everything now, but like you don't just do that on a whim. You got to feel some sort of emotional investment, and that has to be created by human beings. The computers never made me cry just because I looked at it. I cried at the end of Avatar 2 when the son dies, and then I cried at the end again when the funeral. So yeah, we're pro Avatar 2, by the way. So this is good.
There we go. Yeah, it's great.
Avatar, that people got the criticisms of it. I thought it was I liked it better than the first one.
Yeah, me too.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. No, really well put. Yeah, because definitely need the soul in this business. Kind of just like winding down here, Jordan, can you say some of the morale and the picket lines? I know you said like some stories before, but any antecedents you could say, just kind of being on the front line of the protest?
Yeah, I mean, just a few things. I mean, I go over here to Netflix, and it's sometimes, well, I would say in the beginning of the picket of the protest, it was definitely more writers there. So it's kind of wind down just a little bit. But well, I shouldn't say that, because of the SAG, it's actually picked back up. So I think that's very helpful. But I mean, I think that, sometimes you have certain days on a picket line depending upon, the studio. So there's net people pick it at Netflix, that's the site. Disney in Burbank, WB also in like North Hollywood, Amazon, I think Sony, the Paramount, like there's a number of places where you can go and as a SAG or WJ member and pick it. But you have like theme days, so it's like, okay, we're having like Taylor Swift Day, or Flava Flav is showing up on WB lot at at 3 o'clock later, or there's like an ice cream bar, or there's a karaoke, or there was a Black writers meetup at Paramount, which was huge. Paula Patton was there. Stephen Caple Jr. was there, the director of Transformers, Rise of the Beast. Little Rel was there. So you have like these to in order to continue to build morale and to keep people engaged. You have writers groups. So sometimes like, like the Disney writers are gonna go to the Disney lot this day and meet up and have somebody's gonna be at the loudspeaker. There's gonna be, so they have certain events there to kind of keep members engaged. You go in, you check in, you grab your picket sign, and so it's been overall pretty well. I mean, there was 2 shifts, the early shift and then the later afternoon shift. I think now it's just 1 shift because people are kind of like, it's hot outside, and so the guild is very mindful. There's snacks there, people, there's like, donuts sometimes, or water, plenty of water, and all that. So it's overall, I think, at least in my experience, it's been nice, but like I said, I just walk to Netflix, I pick it there for a few hours. Sometimes I see somebody that I know. I've only been working for a few years, so I don't know a whole lot of people, but sometimes I might see somebody from one of my old shows, or maybe I try to make a new friend, make a new connect. I mean, I think that for anybody listening who is trying to get into the guild, or anybody who's interested in writing, and if you're in the area of maybe a picket lines, and if you're not working or whatever that day, if it's good to go and to talk with people. I mean, people on the picket lines are relatively, I mean, a lot of the writers are introverts like myself, but they're very friendly. And we're all kind of in this together, and you never know. It's like it's like I went and I talked to one of the guys, and he was, and a gang was some of the writers from Everybody Hates Chris. So sometimes you kind of never know. It's like, oh yeah, there's so and so, there's, oh, I remember that actress, or I remember that. Oh, wow, you worked on New Girl for X. It's like you really never know.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's really great to hear. Yeah, because it's like, yeah, definitely like, good to show like solidarity, things like that. But yeah, no, it's good to hear like the morale and everything. Yeah, 'cause it's like, yeah, it's been like really in the thick of it. Yeah, because it's been like, almost 3 months too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just gotta say, like, this is me being cynical, and I think we could all understand at this point that it's unfortunately going to go on longer. It doesn't look like the studios want to talk to anyone. So fuck them. But I guess, Gene, if I could lead us out here, I'd appreciate that. I want to ask you, Jordan, what is the best way to support the WGA right now if someone can't make it to a picket line, if someone's not in a central hub of like Los Angeles or New York, or places where they could get attention by picketing?
Oof. Oh, that's a very good, and I thought about the question. It was a very, very good question.
It was Gene's question. I just stole it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gene.
Oh, it's a very good question. I would say sharing. I think, look, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. What I would love to say, cancel Netflix or whatever, but I still have streaming. There's still, especially now having all this time, there's still stuff I'm going to watch. I went to go see Mission Impossible. I'm not going to tell you to stop enjoying movies and TV, because I think you should enjoy them, unless these companies are doing something currently unethical. I mean, yes, we are fighting against the big the big studios and all that. So I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and do that. I will say that I think something that is very beneficial that I've noticed is just is looking into information and sharing information. So this could be something as simple as you see something about the WGA, or see something about SAG and what SAG are fighting for, and just just posting the share button, I think, is very helpful, because I think a lot of people don't truly understand what exactly that these protests are about. And something as simple as just sharing something, putting something on your story, maybe it doesn't have to be on your feed, but just sharing something on your story, or sharing something to a friend, whether it's like it's information about like why SAG is protesting, what it is that they're looking for, or what it is that their studios are trying to do, the whole AI of it all. Because I think that when people realize like, wow, they're trying to scan the likenesses of these background, I don't see how a person with any sort of heart or empathy can say that that's a good thing. And I think that the more widespread this information will be, the more that everybody, not just the people who are involved in the industry, or even the people who stay in tune with the industry like us, or the people who are in the know about it, but just your everyday people, like your godparents, or my grandparents, my uncles, aunts, and cousins, so on and so forth, can know about what's going on. And I think that maybe that can be helpful in regards to just as a whole being like, wow, this is messed up. And I don't know if that's gonna affect the studios in any sort of way. It's just, but I think that at the very least, spreading awareness can kind of bring a greater, I don't know, like you just kind of never know. It could be the difference between, a person actually coming to and seeing like, wow, that is messed up. I'm going to share this, or I'm going to look more into this. And just I think that spreading of information can is the beginning, could be the beginning of something. Not quite sure, but I know that's, at least for me, is what I try to do, and it's something that I appreciate when other people do, is it's just sharing, looking for yourself. Wow, that's interesting. Like, click, what's Fran Drescher talking about? Wow, that's interesting. Share it to somebody else, because if you're listening to this, if you watch movies, if you watch TV, there's hundreds, thousands of people that are behind a lot of times your favorite thing, whether it's something that you watched this year, or on in the big screen, or on the streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. And these are real people, just like you, just like your aunts, uncles, brothers and sisters, and all that. And so I would just say share.
Yeah,
really well said.
I believe that too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much else to cover, but we'd be here for another 24 hours, and then another 24 hours after that. So
the strike will be over.
The strike will be over by the time we're done covering it all.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave some links in the descriptions to these episodes, wherever you listen to them, for the stuff we talked about today, specifically the scanning of background actors, especially links to donate to strike funds for people on strike. That
could be a good thing too. Donate to strike. I probably should have said that as well, but I guess, sometimes it's like, obviously some people might be strapped for cash. I understand there's inflation and things of this nature. But so if you have it, if it's in your heart, definitely strike funds. That's a big thing. Thank you so much.
I've been donating.
And like Jordan said, just like if you are strapped for cash, share the links, share them around, share all this stuff. Solidarity is the way forward, like union strong, baby. Jordan Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a delight.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was good to have you back. Good to chat with you. Yeah, it's been too long since you've been on the show. So yeah,
love to do it again. But have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, you guys too. All right. Just links down to everything today. We're not going to plug anything else. Just take care. Union strong. All right. See you later.
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab, or will you be a man? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?